In a previous video, I tried to forecast how much longer and how much higher the current bull market will go for gold based on patterns in its weekly all-time highs. And someone commented below the video, could you do the same for silver? Yes, I could and I will in this video. So let's start here with a simple price chart of silver. Silver, of course, in the silver line. It's overlapping just a little bit here, but you can see it went up to about 50 in 1980, up to about 50 in 2011, and then here we are, around 100. It's again overlapping. And what we see in the black line is how far back the price of silver is from its all-time high at any given time. And if you remember the chart of gold, it wasn't quite this deep. So silver comes down way faster, way further, and this black line is over 90% below its all-time high. I think it bottomed out at just shy of 93% in 1991. So huge drawdown. And you can see back in the 70s, when we're up at the top of the chart, we're at all-time highs. So a couple different clusters. This is very similar to gold with some pullbacks in between that are kind of shallow. However, what's interesting is that in 2011, we did not hit a new weekly all-time high. So we did not reach the top of the chart. However, in 2025, we did. So we're forming a cluster now in the 2025-2026 era. And so when I look at this chart, I think, okay, we had a pretty long period here and there were two of them. It looks to me like we're kind of just getting started. So when I first saw this, I actually got more excited than I already was for silver because it looks like we probably have even more time than I thought. And then I made this chart and my enthusiasm grew even more. I actually couldn't believe it. I had to check my math twice. So this here again is the price of silver in silver, but what we have here are blue lines and black lines which count up how many weekly all-time highs we have within a rolling window of 26 weeks and 52 weeks for blue and black respectively. So the black line is always going to sit above the blue line. And you can see that in the bull market of the 1970s, we had two distinct peaks where we got a lot of weekly all-time highs and then no all-time highs, and then another bunch of weekly all-time highs, peaking around 21 of them and then 28 of them, I believe. And then nothing for 45 years. Nothing, of course, including the bull market that ended in 2011. Nothing, no weekly all-time highs. And then we just started getting some in 2025. So this made me think, oh my goodness, we're due for two more big peaks probably, or at least two little peaks, medium-sized peaks. And I just, looking at all this and knowing what else I know about the silver market, I just can't possibly think we're done. So a lot of people look at this parabolic move that we've seen in the price lately and they think, that's it, the top is in, it's going to correct. There may be pullbacks, but we are absolutely not done with this bull market. No chance in France. And it gets even more interesting when we look at the clusters of weekly all-time highs. So here I've highlighted in red 6 different clusters, and these are all the instances since 1970 when the price of silver made 5 weekly all-time highs in a row or more, 5 or more consecutive. So you can see back in the first half of the 1970s, there were 5 weeks in a row, and the price actually only increased 9% in those 5 weeks. In 1974, there were 10 weeks in a row. That's the record. That's the longest. And the price of silver kind of only went up 84%. That's obviously still fantastic, but it's not the highest. And then in 1979, there were 3 clusters, 6 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. So they get progressively longer, or at least not shorter. And the amount by which the price increases also grows. So 24%, 67%, 160%. So in each sequence of clusters, they tend to get longer, more weeks in a row, and more steeper. So the price climbs even more. So then I'm looking at 2025 and, okay, there were 5 weeks in a row towards the end of 2025 and the price went up 40%. That's fantastic. But again, I'm thinking we're just getting started. Maybe we could see a cluster of 6 weeks or 8 weeks, and we could see 60%, 100% price gains in that period of time. So obviously nothing certain, but I'm expecting something like that happening soon. And so we can look at this from 3 different angles. Either the silver bull market is over, which I find totally crazy. I don't think that's valid at all. Anyone who thinks that is probably new to the silver space, and they need to go back and watch my Silver Price Prediction 2026 video. In it, I outlined 5 trends that are shaping the silver market, and those are going to be relevant all year long. So definitely watch that. And then if you still think that the silver bull market is over, I don't know what to tell you. So we don't really need to consider that. And on the other extreme, if there's still a long time left in the bull market, 5, 7, 10 years, which is totally valid, then we kind of don't really need to worry about how high can the price go. It's just going to keep going up and up for all those years, which is kind of great if you're a silver investor. Where it becomes interesting is the middle ground. What if the bull market is almost over? What if there's only a year left? And you could actually make that argument based on the chart that I just showed. You might notice that the first pair of clusters occurred in less than 12 months' time. Also, the second cluster of clusters happened in less than 12 months' time, all in 1979. So the fact that we got a new cluster of 5 weeks or more of new all-time highs, that could suggest that the bull market only has about a year left. That's possible. Now, I don't think that's a great argument, but it's possible. So let's just roll with it and explore what if. So if we buy the argument, or if we're going to at least entertain the argument that we got a new cluster of 5 weeks in a row of all-time highs, that was back in November, December of 2025, and there's only 1 year left. Well, let's look at the final year of the 1970s bull market. So what happened in 1979? Well, the beginning of the cluster that we just saw was January 15th, 1979. The price of silver was $6.24, and coincidentally, 52 weeks later was the peak, January 14th, 1980, $49.45. So that means that silver went up almost 8x, almost 700% in the final 52 weeks of the bull market. So in a year, about 8x. Okay, so if that were to happen now, an equivalent gain in 52 weeks, we would go back to November of 2025 when we got that first cluster, the first new weekly all-time high. We would go out 52 weeks. That would be November of this year, 2026. And the price of silver would be $446. That's if the past repeats itself at a similar mathematical level. And so obviously we're not in November of 2025 anymore, so you can't buy silver at $56 an ounce, but you can buy it around 90 or whatever we're at today. So silver prices could quadruple or more from early March to November if we repeat. And that's that scenario if the bull market is almost over and if we're going to get a repeat of what happened in 1979. Now, I don't think we will. I think we have a lot more time, and we might even have a lot more movement in the price, just drawn out over more years than one. And for folks who think that's crazy sounding, and I know that does sound absolutely crazy, let me just remind you of what silver looked like in 1979, January, when it was trading around $6 an ounce. This was the chart, okay? And I would go back further, but the data starts in 1970. So this is 9 years and 2 weeks of data. And this is what the chart looked like. And if you go back before this, the price of silver was slightly over $1. And before 1960, it was actually less than $1, going back to World War I. So silver was pretty cheap for a long time. And then all of a sudden, it goes up to nearly $6, and then it passes $6. And imagine saying in early 1979, yeah, I think silver is going to go from $6 to $49. Imagine saying that, 8x. That's absurd. No one would believe you. That sounds crazy. And yet that's exactly what happened. And so now we look at the price chart today and, cutting it off in November 2025, going back 9 years and 2 weeks just to keep it consistent, the chart looks kind of similar. I mean, not super different. And imagine saying, okay, the price of silver is going to go up 8x to 400 something dollars an ounce. I mean, that sounds kind of crazy, but it's not unprecedented. So obviously no guarantees, but I do think the price is going a lot higher. And that brings us to our meme of the day. And after we hit the smallest all-time high, Thanks for watching.